Hi everyone and welcome, and thanks for tuning in to the Triathlon Queensland Education Series. We are super excited to have here today Vicky Saunders from the Sponsorship Consultants. Today she'll be building on what Charlotte Woods presented to you guys a couple of weeks ago about brand, and we'll be presenting about athlete sponsorship. So we're really excited to see what she brings us today, sharing her knowledge and hopefully a couple of gold nuggets for you guys. So thank you so much for joining us. I will hand over to you, Vicky, and maybe if you could give us a bit of a background as to what you guys do at the Sponsorship Consultants and a bit of work that you guys do. So thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you to Triathlon Queensland for welcoming me to come and share some ideas and knowledge and tips about athlete sponsorship. As a business, we've been working with athletes and sports organisations and sponsors of all types and sizes over the last 6 years. And during that time, I've been lucky enough to travel the world and work with athletes at all levels in all kinds of sports. What we really care about is ensuring that every athlete, no matter their age, their ability, their level of sport or achievement, that every athlete has an understanding of how sponsorship can be engaged and that their uniqueness is their value. And so if you've watched, or if you haven't watched, the previous webinar that Charlotte Woods did about athlete brand, you can understand that every single athlete is unique. You're a unique person, you have unique skills and interests, and part of sponsorship is being able to identify that. So that's one thing that we're really going to focus on today. As you can see on the screen, we've worked with loads of organisations. We've worked with Olympic committees, institutes of sport, sponsors, so we've worked with AMA Sports and Solomon. We've worked with government departments too. So everything that we teach around sponsorship has that really holistic approach. We know what the business world is like. We know what the sports world is like. We also know what it's like to be an athlete. We know the ups and downs, the challenges, the opportunities, and we know that it's a journey. We know that where you are today is not necessarily where you want to be next week or next year or 5 years' time. You've all got your own dreams, aspirations, and along that journey, you've got different needs. Some of you are going to be seeking sponsorship to fulfill financial needs. Others are seeking sponsorship because you know it's going to really help develop your profile, develop new skills, and maybe connect you in with a career that you're interested in pursuing alongside or after your sport. Whatever it is that you want from sponsorship, you can get it. The idea that there's not much sponsorship around, well, it's just not true. A lot of people say there's no sponsorship, there's no money. It's just not true. You know, we see an abundance of sponsorship being engaged on a daily basis from athletes just like you. And we're going to go through some of the case studies during the presentation today. And I really want you just to have that belief, even if you don't know it to be true yet, but start to believe that sponsorship is possible for every athlete because you're unique, because you've got value to offer, even if you don't know what that is yet. So let's just quickly establish what sponsorship is and what it isn't. Sponsorship is not a donation. You're not just getting something for free. There's a value exchange. It's not just for elite athletes. You don't have to be winning medals. You don't have to be ranked number 1 or number 2. More and more so, businesses are sponsoring the everyday athlete, the athlete who's got a story, the athlete who maybe has never won an event but hopes to one day, the athlete who has something more interesting in their story than just their sport. So there's other parts of you, your passion for the environment or your values or the things that you are interested in, like art or fashion. It's more than you as an athlete. This is about you as a person. It's not about getting things for free, as I said, and it's definitely not difficult to obtain when you know the right approach, and that's what we'll start explaining to you today. It really is about the approach. It's about making an offer. It's about being clear on who you are and also the kind of sponsors that you want to approach. So then it stops being this big confusing space of, how do I get sponsorship? Everyone around me is sponsored, but I don't seem to be getting it. Sponsors aren't coming to me, or I'm sending proposals or no one's answering. We'll help you get through that, because that's a barrier that doesn't need to exist. There's a process that's simple, that has worked for thousands of athletes, that we've been able to help engage them get sponsorship for themselves. We don't get sponsorship for anyone. We teach athletes how to get sponsorship for themselves. And we also teach businesses the benefits of investing in sponsorship and how to engage and manage their athletes that they sponsor. So we know both sides of the relationship. So what is sponsorship? It's a business relationship. So if you're going to be sponsored, you're entering into a relationship with a business, and that means that you're stepping up and being professional. This is not about them just giving money to you because they like you or they want to see you do well. That might be part of it, but actually you're making a commitment to them to work together. It is available to all athletes if you're able to identify the value you can offer and the kind of sponsors that are suitable for you. That's the key. And it doesn't matter about how well you're doing in your sport, what level you're at, whether you've got 10 followers on social media or 1,000. There's so much more that can help you engage sponsorship. And it's abundant. As I said, your uniqueness is your value. Your unique story and skills and interests and personality, that's the stuff that opens you up to sponsorship. And in the same way that each of you is unique, every business is unique. So if you look at it that way, every athlete is going to appeal to different businesses. So, okay, maybe all your friends are sponsored by Nike. You might struggle to get sponsored by them if you don't have any sort of differentiating points. So maybe look at some different kinds of businesses. You might find there's a better fit, there's a better exchange of value with your local accounting firm or a real estate agent or a nutrition company. So it's about thinking outside the square, but also looking at your uniqueness, and then that abundance, all those abundant opportunities become obvious to you. One of the things that I'll say, as much as we're teaching a bit of a process today and some of the steps, this is really a mindset thing. If you can, from the outset, be open to the idea that you can get sponsored, that there is an abundance of opportunities out there, then you're going to have a much better journey. You're going to be exploring opportunities. You're going to be thinking outside the square. You're going to have a positive mindset, and you're going to believe, either me or in yourself, that this is possible for you. And with that mindset, you're going to have more success. If you think it's not possible, you're not good enough, you're not interesting enough, it's too hard to get, well, yeah, you probably won't have such a great journey. But what we see every day is more and more athletes telling us that they've just got sponsorship. They read our book and they followed the process and they got a sponsor. Or they did our online course, or they attended a webinar like this and they took some action and they got sponsored. Maybe not the first company that they approached, and maybe not all of the businesses that they approached, but they start to make that progress. They engage their first sponsor and it grows from there. And it can change your life. I've written on the screen that it's game changing. It can change your sport. But this stuff can change your life. You just don't know the opportunities that are out there. So why is it so valuable for you? It covers the costs of being an athlete. Being sponsored can free up time if you're someone who works part-time. It can actually free up your time if you're getting your cost covered by sponsorship. It means you don't have to do that part-time job. You can train more. You can recover more. And as a result, it can reduce stress. Sponsorship can help really boost your self-confidence and also your ability to plan ahead in your sport. If you know that your costs are covered, if you know that your travel's arranged, if you know that there's going to be people cheering for you at some random event that you're going to that near where the sponsors are located, how incredible is that for your mindset and your self-belief? It allows you to fully participate in your sport. You'll be able to use the products and services that are just right for you, And for those athletes who maybe aren't getting things like regular massage or nutrition guidance, those are the kind of things you could seek from sponsorship. They're going to really help improve your journey in sport, so you're able to fully participate mentally and physically. But there's more. So these are the benefits of sponsorship that maybe you haven't considered, maybe haven't been mentioned to you before. Increasing your network. When you're sponsored, more than likely you'll be a bit more active on social media, and you'll also be receiving social media coverage from your sponsors. They'll be sharing your posts and sharing stories and things like that. You might also be more visible in the community. You might be doing more events with your sponsors, going along with them to expos and community events. So your network increases, and when your network increases, there's more opportunities for you. You might get more sponsorship because people know that you're an athlete and you've already got this one great sponsor, and they see the great things that you're doing together. And just general opportunities for career, even media coverage and speaking opportunities if you wanted to do paid speaking work. Having a bigger network that know you and see the great work that you're doing is incredibly valuable. Your credibility is elevated. People know you, they respect you, they see what a great athlete and person you are. You can develop skills and knowledge. Just through the process of engaging your first sponsor, your skills are going to be increased so much. You'll learn how to identify value that's relevant to a business, communicate, have conversations, negotiate, create a sponsorship proposal. And it's not difficult stuff, but it's growing those skills and that knowledge and that self-awareness, which is incredibly valuable. As an athlete, if you're just doing your sport, you might not get to develop your personal and professional skills, but this ties it all in together. And having sponsors creates a team around you. So you've got that additional support. You've got people that believe in you and support you and want to see you do well and want to share that journey with you. It's an incredible feeling being an athlete with sponsors. When you get to the start line, you know that it's not just you. It's your coach, it's your teammates, it's your family, and it's your sponsors. And it's an incredible feeling to know that people really believe in you. Not just the people who love you, but the people that have invested in you because they believe in you. So let's talk about Hannah Easton. Like I said before, athletes of all levels, of all abilities, of all ages can get sponsorship. And I think Hannah is a great example. She's a mum of 3. She's in her late 30s. She likes running. She's not bad at it. She sometimes wins local events. But more often than not, she completes the event, has a wonderful time, shares it on social media. So Hannah came to one of our seminars, which is a bit like this webinar, and she came because she was my friend and she wanted to support me. And she was a little bit interested in the idea of sponsorship, but she didn't know that she would ever be able to get sponsored herself. But after sitting in the session, she thought, I'll just give it a go. And she went and approached a business in Melbourne called She Science. And She Science sell sports bras and clothes for female athletes. And she said, look, I'm not particularly competitive. I'm not a great athlete, but I really love your product. I love what you stand for. And I think that I might be able to be a good ambassador. They actually run a program where they engage female athletes to be ambassadors because they see it as a great way of marketing. They see it as a great way of connecting their product and their brand with their customers through real people like Hannah. Now, Hannah's also a member of an online group called Running Mums Australia. Now, that group has, I think, about 8,000 members or more. And she also asked if she could become an ambassador for them. So being an ambassador for a small company, a small business that sell running clothes and a big online group of other mums who love running was a wonderful fit for Hannah. She was able to share her journey, her running events, her training, her story, her time with her kids, and naturally showcase the products that She Science sell. And all of the women in that running group love her, respect her, are influenced by her. And so she was actually able to bring more customers to that shop. But also they used her story in their social media, which helped with their current or their existing audience. It's as simple as that. And it's not all about making sales. It's definitely not. But that in this instance, that was one of the results. So it really isn't about how good you are at your sport. It's about you finding relevant sponsors whose audience can relate to you, and you can, your story, your activities, your knowledge, and your expertise as well is relevant to them. So it creates that connection. And that's why you're so valuable to sponsors, because you're able to help them do their business better. You can contribute to their social media content, or you can share information about them in your social media content. You can be an ambassador and go to events with them. They might attend trade fairs or expos, and you can go along and be active in helping them maybe do a fun activity to get people coming to their stand. You know, it could be a triathlon trivia session where people have to guess the distance, because a lot of people don't know much about triathlon distances. So, what's the distance of, a long course or a short course? Doing fun things to get people to come and interact with your sponsor. You can do product testing and development. A lot of clothing companies and even food companies spend money getting people to test their products. So if you're one of their sponsored athletes, that's part of the offer that you can give them. Being involved in helping them create interesting marketing content is a really important contribution that you can make. So sharing your story, your images, your journey, and allowing them to use that in their marketing content, whether that's their brochures or if they do online videos or magazines, any of that stuff you can be involved in. Content is a really important thing for most businesses because that's how they market, that's how they go out to their customers. And you can also be involved in things that engage their staff. So a lot of businesses are really focusing these days on staff engagement and well-being. So offering to go and do a fun fitness session, every couple of months with their staff is a really great way that you can give value back to that business. So far I haven't actually mentioned your results as being of value to your sponsors. They can be, for sure. If you're one of the athletes who is ranked number one and is getting loads of media coverage and has a really big profile, sure, that's beneficial. But let's be realistic, that's not most athletes. That's the 0.1% who've reached that level. For the rest of you, it's okay. That's not your thing. That's not something that you can offer, but there's so much more that you can offer. So this is She Science. If you go and have a look on their Facebook page or their website, you'll see that they have a team of ambassadors every year, and they change them. Usually they change them. So they'll have different women each year as their ambassadors. They have women who are able-bodied. They have Paralympic athletes. They have old and young and different sports. And what that does for their brand is it shows their customers that they really care about people. It endears them to their customers. It creates a community. And as a sponsored athlete, a business like this could be incredible for you to start with. Obviously for the boys, this isn't one for you. But this kind of smaller business is a great stepping stone. It's a great way for you to get experience with being a sponsored athlete, to be involved in their social media and their activities. Some of the bigger brands aren't going to share you. They might sponsor you. They might send you some free shoes. But they're never going to put posts up about you because they're too big. They've already got their big superstar athletes that they sponsor or big events that they sponsor. So thinking about the smaller businesses, you might have a better experience and gain more skills and knowledge working with a smaller sponsor, at least to start with. So why is your uniqueness your value? I mentioned that earlier, that the concept of all of the things that make you uniquely you are the things that make you valuable to a sponsor. And I think that's probably the crux of this. It's understanding what it is that you can offer that only you can offer. Is it that you've got some great photography skills or you love art and you can include that in what you offer to your sponsors? Maybe part of what you offer them is art. If you're traveling around to different events, maybe you do some sketches and some paintings of the different beautiful locations that you go to for your events. And you give those paintings to your sponsors to put in their office or to give to their staff as gifts, or maybe to use in an auction for one of the charities that they sponsor. This is about thinking outside the square. And so the more that you tap into who you are, what you care about, what your interests and skills and ambitions are, they're all going to give you so many ideas for what you can offer to your sponsors. Pretty exciting, I think. So here are 3 sponsorship secrets. In a minute, we're going to go through the steps that you need to take to get sponsored. But again, today is really about mindset. I want you to feel confident. I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to understand that sponsorship is not for the elite and only the elite. This is for you. So understanding the process is important, but really having the mindset, that's the thing that's going to help you get sponsored. Anyone can follow a process, but if you've got the self-belief and the self-knowledge and awareness, you're leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else that's just going and sending a proposal. So keep this in mind if you do decide to pursue sponsorship. Secret number 1, identify your sponsorship ambitions. So that doesn't mean just going and taking any old sponsorship that you can get. This is setting the bar high. What do you really want to get out of sponsorship? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What's your blue sky thinking around sponsorship? So in this, I would encourage you to daydream. I would encourage you to let your mind wander and not self-edit. Not think, I can't do that, it's not possible. Just to think, wow, wouldn't it be so cool if I was sponsored by, and I'm going to make one up for myself. Let's say, so I am an athlete, actually. I'm not particularly good either, so I could definitely get sponsored. But let's say I was looking for a sponsor. I travel a lot for work. I'm always going to different gyms, and they don't always have very good equipment. So a great sponsor for me would be one of those companies that make like the rubber band things that you can use, resistance bands. I think they'd be a great sponsor for me. So I'd start to sort of piece together, what I'm interested in, what my life looks like, what I really want. And what I really want, if I was going to be sponsored by a company, let's say resistance bands, my big thing is actually around creating positive impact in the world. So I would want to be actively involved in their social media, sharing my story and helping create more awareness of staying fit and healthy. You might have a sponsorship ambition that's more around finance. You might say, I really want to be earning $100,000 a year from sponsorship. Cool. Make that your ambition. Don't worry if you can't get that in the first year or the second year. But it's okay to have these big goals. In fact, it's really important, because if you don't set the goals up here and you set them here, that's all you're going to achieve. So set them here and work towards that, and knowing that every step along the way is leading towards that bigger goal. Secret number 2, identify the awesome value that you can offer sponsors. And again, think creatively. It's all about you. It's all about the kind of things that you're interested in, you're good at, or you'd like to get good at. You might need to do some skills development. But that is such an important part of identifying what you can offer sponsors is going to really be a game changer when it comes to approaching them, because you won't be asking for a handout. You'll be going to them with an offer of what you can give them. And it's really such a change in the dynamic. You'll feel confident, you'll feel excited, and they will feel much more positive about you, because you're not just another athlete asking for something for free. You've actually spent the time to think about what's good for them and their business. And it will set you aside, it will set you above so many of the other athletes that approach them for sponsorship. Secret number 3 ties into secret number 2. Take the time to really understand what your sponsors need. So understanding what they're trying to do as a business, how they do their marketing. Do they already sponsor athletes or events? Get to know them and see where you can fit in, where you can contribute. If you see that they're holding an event every year with their staff, could you offer to go along and do some fitness sessions or a motivational talk? Look for the gaps and the opportunities by getting to understand the businesses that you plan to approach. Okay, so we are missing a slide and I apologise for that. So I'm going to talk you through the steps to getting sponsored. So if you've got a pen handy, I'm giving you a couple of seconds to grab one if you don't. These are the steps to getting sponsored. First of all, identify your goals and ambitions in life and in sport, the big picture. Second step, identify your sponsorship needs. What do you need from sponsorship? Do you need your costs covered? Do you need some products and services that maybe you can't currently afford or you don't have access to? Identify in a list all of the things that you need and want from sponsorship. Maybe you want some work experience or some skills development. You might want to be sponsored by a business who are going to help you get really, really good on social media or creating videos. The next step, using your list of all the things that you want from sponsorship, start to identify the kind of sponsors that can give you that. And think outside the square again. Think locally and think nationally and even globally. Don't be scared to think outside the square. Later on in the process, you can narrow it down and, put some logic to it, but for now you're thinking big. So you've identified what you want. You identify the kind of sponsors and some specific businesses that could be your sponsors. And then you're going to identify what it is that you can offer to sponsors. So all of the skills and value that you can offer to a sponsor. Then you're going to choose one sponsor to approach and continue the process with. We don't believe in approaching loads of sponsors at one time. You're better off taking a bit more of a focused approach and approach just one sponsor so you can really understand them, do some research on them, make the approach to them, and create a proposal just for them. You can adjust it later to suit other sponsors, but for now you're focusing on this one business. Identify your needs, identify your sponsor, identify what you can offer, research them and create a proposal for them. And when you do approach them, I really encourage you to pick up the phone, arrange a meeting, have that one-on-one contact. Don't just send a proposal, because you and everybody else is just sending a proposal. If you take the time to try to make that connection, either via email or phone, that's a really great start for you to actually build that relationship with them so they see you as a person, not just an email address who sent them an unsolicited proposal. That will make such a difference. So our process is as simple as it is. It's really effective. It's really streamlined and it's proven. It's something that athletes have been using over the last 6 years to get sponsored. And while it is simple, there's a reason behind every step. We have an online course and it's in the book, and it's going to be something that if you follow, you'll get good results. We find every athlete who goes through that process gets sponsored and then has that process to use to get more and more sponsorship over time. So we're going to do some questions in just a second. But for now, I just wanted to share what I really think your next steps should be. Today was just a very brief introduction. Like I said, it's mostly about your mindset. If you're interested in sponsorship and you want to learn more, then these are the actions that you should take. One is read our book, Sponsorship for Athletes, and there'll be a link under this video or near this video and on the screen at the moment. Read the book. It's on our website. It's Sponsorship for Athletes. You can get it as an ebook or a printed book. That will give you all the knowledge you need to go and approach a sponsor. But we also have an online group. It's free. You You can join now. It's called the Athlete Sponsorship Hub. And in there, you can learn from other athletes and our team of experts all about sponsorship. So if you think that you want sponsorship, then this is the action that you need to take. But let's go to questions now. And, oh, I've got a few. Fantastic. So how do you approach potential sponsors? That's a really good question. I touched on it before that you should pick up the phone or send an email if you don't have a phone number. But really, it should be as personal as you can make it. Try to connect with them on a one-on-one level. If you need to send a Facebook message or via Instagram, that's okay. But try to get to a real person as soon as possible. So the step before that, I suppose, is actually doing a little bit of research and seeing within that business who the right person to speak to is. If it's a big business, they might have a sponsorship manager or a marketing manager. Or if it's a small business, it may be that you need to speak to the business owner. But don't be scared to ask. You know, if you ring reception and you ask who is the right person to speak to about sponsorship, they can probably help you out. LinkedIn's really good as well, searching on LinkedIn. I think one of the best things, one of the most helpful things is if you know somebody who knows someone. So if you know you've got a friend or a family member who works in a business or knows somebody there, that's a great way of getting an initial introduction or connection. If it feels uncomfortable to pick up the phone, that's okay. Everybody hates picking up the phone. Nobody likes it. I get nervous picking up the phone. Doesn't matter. It will help you so much and it's worth the effort. You know, part of this sponsorship journey is stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit because you want to get great results. So I'd really encourage you to make that little bit of extra effort to make that direct connection. Okay. One of the other questions we got is there a space for sponsorship for coaches and support staff who deliver services to athletes? Absolutely. So like you've probably noticed in this whole webinar, your sports results as an athlete are not so important. Sponsorship, it's around your activities, the knowledge that you have, the story that you can share, who you are as a person. So support staff, absolutely. Interestingly enough, it's something I always encourage is for coaches and support staff to look at getting sponsorship because you've got expertise, you've got stories, you've also got an audience of people who believe in you and trust you and are influenced by you. So you're in a great position to engage sponsorship. And it's the same process, you know, it's about identifying your uniqueness, what you can offer sponsors, what the relationship could look like, you know, the value exchange, what you want from them, what you can offer, and then making that approach. The sponsorship space has really changed a lot in the last 10 years, and most businesses are looking to sponsor people who are real. You know, it's that authenticity piece. It's around showing their brand and their product and their services in action, you know, with a real person, a believable person. I know that people like Kim Kardashian and all of those kind of influencers are effective, but that's kind of a different space. For most people, when we make purchases, when we start using the service of a business, it's because we trust them. So if the people that they sponsor are relatable, if we can believe in them and relate to them, then it makes that whole experience a lot easier. You know, the business is able to influence us through the people that they sponsor and share that relationship and trust in an authentic way. Okay, so another question, this is a great one. Which businesses would you suggest to start with in terms of engaging a sponsor? Small business or big businesses within your network? So that's going to be different for every single athlete. And it starts with you. It starts with identifying your goals, your ambitions, and your needs, and what you can offer. And that will start to, those things give you clues as to the kind of sponsors that you need and want. And from there, You might see that some of them are very big corporate organisations, some are very small local businesses like a fruit and veg shop. And you'll be able to, I guess, clearly see which ones you're most suited to and are most suited to you. So there's no wrong or right. My personal opinion, my professional opinion, is that a small business can potentially give you more opportunity to develop your skills, experience, and credibility as a sponsored athlete before approaching a bigger organisation, because that they will have potentially a different level of professionalism and expectation. So starting with a smaller business, they're more likely to get you involved in their activities and to share your content on social media and be more engaged with you. A bigger business may not have time for that. So using a smaller sponsor for experience is a great way to prepare yourself for bigger sponsorships. But like I said, think big and think out there and don't limit yourself. So if you do want to approach a big company for sponsorship, go for it. Just make sure that you're offering something that you believe is valuable for them. Okay, when should you start thinking about looking for a sponsor? That's an interesting question. So if you're under 18, what you can offer to sponsors may be limited because you're at school, you're probably living at home, you may not have a car to travel around. There's certain venues and events that you wouldn't be allowed to go to because they're licensed and have alcohol. So there's things that, you know, maybe you can't offer. You can definitely offer your story, social media content and activity, and being involved in product testing and development. But it's a little bit more limited. And also you've got other things that you're focusing on, such as school, training, growing up, having a life and things like that. So I typically would say don't jump too deep into sponsorship until you're 18, 19 onwards. But in saying that, you can certainly get some great experience and knowledge in those younger years, especially if mum and dad can be involved. And I think that's the key. If it's just you going out and getting sponsorship by yourself, you might run into some trouble. You may not have the knowledge and experience in life to be able to make the right decisions and to be able to navigate that. So if mum and dad are involved, I think it's great to start early and start exploring and learning about sponsorship, and definitely being involved if there are conversations to be had with sponsors. Learning how to have those adult and professional conversations at a young age is fantastic. It's a great skills development. But I'd really like to say that for the younger athletes, I don't like seeing lots of pressure being put on younger athletes to get sponsored. But if something that they're interested in and mum and dad are able to support the journey, I think it's a great development opportunity for them. And then after that, really, if you feel like you need sponsorship because it's going to help you with your sport, with your skills, with your career ambitions, then go for it. There's no wrong or right time to start. Okay, we've got one more question. How do you know when a sponsorship isn't working for either party? That's a good one. Communication is key when it comes to sponsorship. One of the things I'd encourage you to do at the start of any sponsorship arrangement is to establish how and when you're going to be communicating. So if you don't have a regular communication plan, then things could be going wrong, but you don't even know. So being able to know that once a month or once every 2 months there's an exchange of emails or a phone call, that's a great way to make sure that if anything comes up, there's going to be a chance to discuss it. And the other thing at the start of those relationships is to clearly establish expectations. So what are the, 5 things that the sponsor is going to give you or do with you? And what are the 5 things that you're going to be offering to that sponsor? And for each of those things, how and when are they going to be done? One of the things that I've seen happen so many times is a sponsor has said, we would like you to do regular social media posts about us and our products. And the athlete says, yes, I will do regular social media posts about you and your products. And the sponsor thinks that's going to be every couple of days. and the athlete thinks regular is once a month. And so there's already a mismatch of expectations, and you can just imagine how that goes. The sponsor feels like the athlete isn't doing their job. The athlete's feeling fantastic that they're doing their post every month. But unfortunately, that relationship's being damaged because they've got different expectations. So that's it. I think the way that you can mitigate or reduce the risk of a relationship not going well is by setting it up well from the start. And how do you know if it's not going well? You know, because you either know within yourself that they're not, your sponsor's not delivering on what they said they would, or you're not delivering on what you said they would, or on what you said you would, or it's being communicated to you through your sponsor that something's not working. So you'll know. And I think at that point, again, communication's key. Being honest, being upfront, and being willing to find a way to work through it. Or if it's really, really not working, to be able to step away from that. You know, if you're sponsored by a business who changed their approach, maybe their values and your values were aligned, but now they're doing something that completely conflicts with your beliefs, that's probably a good time to make a decision to step away. And, you know, a lot of athletes will stay with the one sponsor for many years, but you will see athletes chopping and changing sponsors a lot. You probably want something in the middle. You know, you want to have some new sponsors every so often, but some longer term relationships, but you don't want to be chopping and changing relationships all the time because it takes away from your credibility. You look like someone that doesn't really know what they want and isn't able to maintain a relationship with sponsors. So taking the time at the start, figure out what you want, what you can offer, the right sponsors for you by doing research on them, all of that stuff is going to mean that the relationships that you do create are going to be valuable and meaningful and sustainable and enjoyable, because you can have a lot of fun with sponsorship. I got into sponsorship actually about 10 years ago before I started my business, and my partner was an athlete who needed sponsorship. So I took everything that I knew from the corporate world in marketing and sponsorship, and I taught him and I showed him. I never got sponsorship for him, but I showed him how to do it. And his first project that he got sponsored for, he ran the length of Australia on a trail through the mountains. He got about $100,000 worth of sponsorship. Coming from the corporate world, that didn't seem like a lot of money for me, but for him, it was life-changing. And I know what it's like to, you know, work with different types of businesses and exchange value and get creative. So everything that you see in our educational material, if you read our book, if you join our group, comes originally from my real life experience and my background of 10 plus years in marketing. Plus the last 6 years of actually working with sports organizations and athletes and businesses. So there's this depth of knowledge and there's a real life experience that it's all based on. But for you, it's actually quite a simple process. We've kind of done the hard work so that it's not so hard for you, because you've got other commitments in life. You've got your training, like triathlon I think is one of the most demanding sports for training. We've tried to keep it really simple for you. If you've got more questions, you can type them below the video, or as I said, join our group, the Athlete Sponsorship Hub. I am so excited to hear from lots and lots of you about what you decide to do about sponsorship, and then hopefully lots of you get sponsored too. And really, really looking forward to sharing this journey with you. Thank you so much.